So we're moving right through history. We got from Bulgaria. There was a little time also in America, California. And we're going to move to South America, to the time of Argentina. Dr. Martin Schuster, who I haven't seen, his parents were founding members of Congregation Emmanuel in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Hey.
A big hug.
Wow, wow. And his father was the founding president. During the 3 years that my parents lived in Argentina, my father led the reform movement in South America. And this started a lifelong relationship with the extended Schuster family. Take it away, Martin.
Take it away. Elaine, it is an honor for me and my family to be sharing this moment in time to recognize a man who brought the reform movement as well as love to not just a family, but a whole community. Let me place you in time. This is July of 1963. The country, Argentina, and the city of Buenos Aires. The Jewish community was close to 500,000, made up of those escaping from the pogroms in Eastern Europe from the late 1800s all the way to the Holocaust survivors, but most of whom represented the Orthodox and conservative movements. A socially and religious conscious group of Jews, among which was my father, recognized the need for a more modern perspective that would keep up with the times and the idiosyncrasies, regional as well as language. Up until then, religious services were conducted in Hebrew or in German, but very little in Spanish. Just to place you in what was going on with the Spanish, it was not until September of 1964 that the Latin American office of the World Council of Synagogues published a Spanish translation of the complete Siddur, 1964. The first time since the original Spanish translation of the Jewish prayer book that had appeared in Ferrara, Italy, in 1552. To fill the void, the World Union for Progressive Judaism, which is the world organization for Reform Judaism outside of the United States, designated Chaim to be the director for all Latin American of the World Union, with headquarters in Buenos Aires. This is how Congregación Emmanuel, or Temple Emmanuel, was born, under the spiritual leadership of Rabbi Zahavi-Asa, my father being the founding president. The first Sukkot under the Reform movement was held in Chaim and Elaine's backyard in La Lucila, a neighborhood in the outskirts of Buenos Aires in 1964. You can imagine that any place was Bulgaria, Argentina, also with the hands. So Shabbats were held in the grass. I remember Shabbats that were held in the garage. Any place seemed to be accommodating for those first few founding families. Chaim's sermons were educational and inspirational, especially considering the additional spices of an accent in Hebrew, in English, Bulgarian, added to his newly acquired Spanish. Those early memories of Judaic education seem to be running in a playful way in the eyes of a 10-year-old child and will remain engraved in my memories for the rest of my life. Chaim seemed to play together with Elaine. Like someone said just now, he had a sense of humor, who in my humble opinion, Elaine was the best companion a rabbi could have had. They both did multiple roles in the community. And you have to understand Argentina in 1964, but even 2015, not much has changed. But you have to be Madrid. Elaine had to be public relations wife, cantor, housekeeper, mother, painter, contractor, and sometimes, why not, the editor of Haim's sermons. With the Spanish you learned in elementary or high school. How can I describe the campings we shared, the songs around the fire, the games we played, the walks, Haim's teachings in general? As the membership grew, fueled by Haim and Elaine's charisma and energy, the need for a bigger, spacious building took Haim to find an old house in Ciudad de La Paz, 547, our new congregation. This is how Congregación Emmanuel now had a physical identity, not more of a garage, which carried on for several years till sufficient donations provided the financial means to build our own temple. At the same time that Reformed Judaism was growing up in Argentina, the family Asa was also growing up in number, and Elaine kept traveling back to Los Angeles to give birth to her children. Haim followed. While this piece of history continued for almost 3 years, the work done gave start to a temple and a movement which continued alive for the next 60 years. Our lives have been intertwined ever since those early years of the 1960s, while Haim and Elaine traveled back to LA to start Haim's commitment with Temple Betikva in June of 1966. They continued their close ties with this flourishing community left behind. It was in 1980 that Haim officiated my wedding in Argentina. It seemed like time for me had not passed. Soon after that, he and Elaine became instrumental in my immigration to the US. Argentina, military junta, as you can imagine, some anti-Semitism, etc., decided for me to come. And Haim said, sure, come to Los Angeles. So that's the main reason why I'm in LA. And they became my adoptive parents, helping me make this place a new home far from home. My daughter's naming and everything else that we participated together. My first group of friends introduced by Haim and Elaine. It's okay? All right. This is why today, my mother, my sisters, nephew, nieces, grandchildren, in representation of this Reformed community known worldwide as Congregación Emmanuel, all gather to honor Haim, his family, and his legacy. And his spiritual leadership will continue. Thank you.
Martin, thank you. I have this feeling now that they say that upon somebody's passing, the moments before death, they see their perhaps entire life pass before them. And I kind of feel that a year ago, as we watched my father passing, this narrative is what he heard. This narrative that we're hearing today, and we're getting a replay of it, of all the stories that were told right before in his mind. And so, thank you for everyone for telling your stories to us so that we can actually hear what was going on in my dad's mind. We're moving forward from Argentina. I was the reason they came back in '66. The birth, my birth, right? 66, you were giving birth to me. So they came back from Argentina. And at that point, after interviews and of the such, made Temple Beth Tikva their home. And Rabbi Karen Fox, together with her brother, Rabbi Stephen Fox, represent those early years of TBT in the early 1970s, late 1960s. They were two of many individuals mentored by my father as they began their Jewish journey. Aviva and I were honored by Rabbi Fox's spiritual presence and guidance when she gave the opening drasha at the Shloshim, the 30 days in Israel. And it was very, very special for us. Thank you, Karen. Thank you.
I'm Karen Fox. I'm daughter of Dave and Zenta Fox, who were members here, founding members of the temple. And I am from the confirmation class of 1967, which was the first confirmation class, a group of 6 girls, all dressed in white. And we had studied with Chaim and Elaine in their home and helped. What I remember the first time in my experience building a sukkah in your backyard. And that was the beginning of my experience in active Jewish life outside my home. So it's an honor to be here, to be with you, and to remember Rabbi Zahavi-Asa. In preparing today, I found the talk that I gave when Chaim and Elaine, you were honored at Chaim's retirement, his first retirement. And then I found the notes that I sent to Rabbi Einstein last year before the funeral, and the thoughts that I shared in Jerusalem at the Shloshim in June of last year. And I wanted to reflect on something different today. Although Rabbi Asa and I have had very different rabbinic careers, Rabbi Asa was my mentor, and it is from him that I learned the depth of my rabbinic practice. I was ordained by Hebrew Union College in 1978 in New York. I've spent most of my career at Wilshire Boulevard Temple in Los Angeles as a rabbi, as a camp director, a pastoral counselor, and teacher. And now I'm retired, sort of, and teaching at Hebrew Union College, teaching rabbinic students. In today's world, rabbinic schools are teaching engagement. That's the key word in nonprofit these days, engagement. And I have to say, that's not a lesson Chaim needed. He knew what engagement meant. He knew that home and community and synagogue could be one. He knew that you could extend a heart from the synagogue into the community, into the children, into the teenagers, into the adults, and make a difference in their life, Jewishly and personally. Chaim knew, Dvarim min alev nichnasim le'alev. Words spoken from the heart enter the heart. And Chaim spoke from the heart, sometimes completely candidly, without filter, spoken from the heart. But those words from the heart are the things that we hold on to. He spoke from the heart when he opened his home, and he and Elaine invited teenagers in. He spoke from the heart when he advocated for scholarships for children to attend Camp Swig and Camp S. Kramer. And I was one of those kids. He did have to convince my parents that it was okay to get a scholarship, because in their world it was embarrassing. You accept money from somebody, and he really knew how to talk it, that it's something that Karen earned. And it was a good thing to receive a scholarship. He stood up for Israel and insisted that we take a caravan to the Hollywood Bowl to support Israel in June of 1967. He advocated for Soviet Jews and Hispanic farm workers. Chaim spoke from the heart when he encouraged me to go to rabbinic school, when he was delighted that I entered, and when I was ordained. He spoke from the heart. When he celebrated and guided our wedding, and when my mother-in-law said to him, my mother-in-law who was Orthodox, said to him, "And how did you get here?" And they started talking. He was there for our family many, many times. He and Elaine appeared at my dad's art exhibits throughout Orange County and Los Angeles, and we were always grateful to have you there. And he expressed sadness when my parents died. Chaim spoke from the heart about Jews throughout the globe and represented Bulgarian Jews throughout the world. And I learned many, many things from Chaim, many things that made me proud. But his advocacy for Jews throughout the world reminded me to stand up for our people everywhere. And it just so happens that I returned from Buenos Aires, Argentina on Friday as part of a United Jewish Federation's Rabbinic Cabinet meeting. 25 American and Canadian rabbis meeting with the Argentinian leadership, the Jewish community, with the new minister of religion, with the Israeli ambassador and the American ambassador to Argentina regarding the Argentinian Jewish community, which is a dynamic community with educational and social and cultural centers. And the NCI Emmanuel Shabbat morning was filled. There were 2 bat mitzvah and 1 bar mitzvah, 500 people there on Shabbat morning. It was something to see and to be part of. Kol hakavod lachem. And it's also a Jewish community that has experienced and still continues to experience both overt and covert anti-Semitism. Chaim spoke out. Mickey and I have a son and daughter-in-law. And a little grandson who's named for my father, Dave. And they live in Vienna, Austria, where my father was born. That Jewish community is small and much too quiet. Still, covert anti-Semitism, like a fog, sitting in the community. Chaim would say, speak up, speak out. And Israel? Israel was a dynamic part of Chaim's legacy to the Jewish community and to the rabbis that he mentored. Dynamic, but divided Jewish community is Israel in many ways. Trauma over the years has added to tension and to creativity within Israel. And Chaim would say, speak out, make your presence known as Jews in Israel. Yes, I believe that we Jews in the United States are the luckiest Jews in all of history. But Chaim reminded us and inspired me to expand my concern for our people beyond the comfort that we experience here. Jews need each other throughout the world. Jews need each other the way Chaim modeled it, through love, advocacy, energy, and passion. May his qualities continue to speak from the heart and continue to inspire us who absorbed his teaching and his heart to transmit it through time. Zichrono livracha. May his memory be for blessing.
Miriam Van Ralt, Administrator and Director of Education at TBT, was 12 years old when her family joined the synagogue back in, I think, 1966, as history has it, back when it was housed at YMCA. Miriam is an adopted daughter to my father, which makes her an adopted sister to us, and a backbone of this community.
Thank you, Leora, the child whom my father fed candy every Friday night. She called him the Candy Man. There is a reading that Chaim used to use at funerals and on special occasions. It starts like this. In the rising of the sun and its going down, we remember him. Every day when I walk into my office, there is a portrait of Chaim that we used at his funeral that hangs next to the donor wall for Project Legacy. I say they are angelic eyes. Leora and Aviva said they are devil eyes. They're one and the same. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember him. This winter, we welcomed a new baby into our congregation, Noah Goldman. Chaim wanted Melissa to have a baby, and she fulfilled that dream. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember him. Every Erev Pesach, I would get a phone call from Chaim and Elaine just to say, Good Yontif. It's something that I've missed this past year, although Elaine did it, but Chaim wasn't there. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember him. Chaim loved our fireworks stands, and this last summer, after many, many years, the city of Fullerton reinstated the ability to do this fundraiser, and we were chosen to have a fireworks stand. Chaim was fireworks. It's probably why he loved it so much. This summer also began the tiring job of cleaning out the ties and the shoes and the suits and the cars and the garage.
We're still working.
In that garage were hundreds of books. I am the proud owner of some of those, among which are rabbinic texts that I hope to someday use when I fulfill mine and Chaim's dream of becoming a rabbi. Karen, I'm going to follow in your footsteps. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember him. This fall, we welcomed another baby to our congregation, Ava Max Simon. And Chaim knew that Lauren was pregnant, and he was happy. Sukkot occurs in the autumn, and one of my fondest memories growing up was when Chaim would unwrap the etrog and he would pull out the hair that the etrog was wrapped in, and he would put it on his head like a wig. And my other very powerful memory of the autumn is Thanksgiving morning, 1981, when we were invited to complete the building of our Aron HaKodesh, the Ark that stands behind me. And Chaim was there to hammer the slats into the wall and to glue them in as we completed the building of our sanctuary. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember him. I used to go with Chaim and Elaine and the Pesners to a movie on New Year's Eve. The last one I think I went to was A Beautiful Mind. What a way to go out of a year. But Chaim also was the last one out of the sanctuary at High Holy Day services because everyone wanted to say Good Yontif to him and to Elaine. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember him. Chaim was in the car business. And when he did, the car business stopped, except that somebody called the temple this past year and said they had a car to donate. I cursed Chaim for leaving that day. What a god-awful job that was. So many little pieces of getting a car donated, getting it ready to resell, and taking care of that. And so there are a few cars that sit on our parking lot now that are for sale. When we are lost and are sick at heart, we remember him. That day, that May 28th, when we stood, as Carrie said, around his bed, and we knew that it was time, and we started to sing. We sang Shalom Aleichem, and I was thinking, what could we possibly sing? And knowing how he loved Israel so much, I started to sing Yerushalayim Shel Zahav. And he still was going. And I knew that there had to be one last song. And so I sang Hatikva. And that was his last song. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember him. As Aviva said, we are building bridges with Israel here at TBT. With Zemer Hazait, we are going to create the bridge that no one has ever dared to build before. We welcomed Rabbi Shlomo Riskin to our Bima last weekend, and we hope to engage in conversations over the years to come. Last night, we had the party of all parties here. Some of those books from Chaim's garage that were destined for recycling hang above you. Those pages were made into beautiful decorations and adorned our tables, are like clouds in the sky for our sanctuary and social hall, and come from every nook and cranny of that garage. And they will be used by many of our congregants in the future. And we are writing the next chapter by welcoming to TBT Rabbi Nico Sokolovsky, who is originally from Buenos Aires and was raised at Congregation Emmanuel, and who, when he was interviewed via Skype, said the words that everyone wants to hear, etc., etc., etc. And that's how we knew he was the rabbi for us. So long as we live, he too will live, for he is a part of us as we remember him. We do our best honor to our loved ones by living our lives as he would want us to, bringing peace to ourselves, bringing communities together to make shalom for us individually, as a community, for Am Yisrael, and for the entire world. Zichrono livracha, his memory is a blessing.